What to do, everybody? VG Legend is the name, and Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection is the game again. Where we last left off, we were doing the documentary, and we're going to continue that here shortly. Give me a second while I share this to Facebook. All right, let's continue watching the documentaries.
Street Fighter had this feature which I loved and hated at the same time. You can get your opponent dizzy. I loved the fact when I was the aggressor and saw my opponent dizzy, you almost like salivating at this free hit that you get. And then I hated the idea of being the victim. I put the dizzy feature at the end of the fight. You just get like one last hit. And everybody would do an uppercut as your kind of like payoff. We had a feature that we had dropped in the game where Shang Tsung, when he would defeat you, he would take a sword out and he would like cut your head off. And we weren't going to use it because we were out of space, but we still had the animations of all the characters falling to their knees without a head. One day I just kind of piecemealed the idea of Johnny Cage uppercutting the opponent with his uppercut animation, and then using the animations of the character with his head, you know, cut off.
Johnny Cage wins. Fatality.
I showed it to John, I showed it to the rest of the team, and everybody lost their mind. We have to do this. The fact that we gave the players the ability to actually perform this kind of death blow, this kind of killing move, was really the birth of that idea. Some people were kind of like saying, I don't think we can get away with, you know, letting the player kill the other player. So we showed it to management, and they loved it.
I was surprised that we could include the level of blood spattering around that we did. But of course, you know, when I was working on Mortal Kombat, I had just come from Smash TV and Total Carnage, and so, you know, the levels of blood spattering around the screen wasn't new to me.
From that point on, it was, okay, now we got to think of fatalities for all the characters. Some of the later characters, we actually grabbed animations of them. You know, Kano ripping the heart out, Sonya doing the kiss of death and all that. The spine rip was a suggestion from John Tobias, referencing the movie Predator. And he said, why don't we do what they did in Predator, where you pull the head up.
It's just like, oh, it was just like, oh my God.
And I remember saying, you know, I think that's probably crossing the line. We can't do it. Again, once we mocked it up, put it into the game, you know, there was no turning back. Everybody was just losing their mind.
And if anything, I felt like there was a bit of encouragement coming from other folks, you know, around the office, just because of the excitement that it drew from the players.
Everybody had to see this. No one had ever seen somebody removing someone's spinal cord. It's interesting. It made it so much more emotional. It just like, you're just like, yeah! You know, it's almost like that barbaric, primal emotion, like, yeah! You know, like,
we never performance captured a fatality for Liu Kang. But there were some animations that we had not used. One of them was this really cool cartwheel kick.
Whoa. Yeah, let's grab that again, even if we don't use it. Right. We'll use it someplace.
We were both like, wow, we'll find a place for that. When it came time to do Liu Kang's fatality, we just spliced on the uppercut animation at the end of it, and it wasn't disgusting, it wasn't gross, it wasn't shocking.
Liu Kang wins.
And we just kind of reasoned with ourselves to say, well, Liu Kang's the hero. He's a Shaolin monk. He's peaceful. Heroes don't kill people, so we just give him a big uppercut. The process of adding fatalities into the game created so much energy in the whole studio in terms of their excitement for the game that we knew there was no backing out of it at that point.
Again, you're in a very small screen environment. You really have to exaggerate things. You have to make it just outrageous.
Scorpion wins.
Found the Holy Grail. It's like hitting the lottery. You know, it was something that we knew was going to be a signature part of Mortal Kombat.
I always judge a great game by how loud players get when you play. You yell at your friends and laugh, and the volume level is a measure of a good game for me.
And like I said, it was just fun and it was happy, and that may be the secret sauce.
Again, when you see people playing the game and they're losing their minds and they're reacting to it, there's your fuel. There's your fuel for the next, for the next year.
Who put the K in combat?
I did. I put the K in combat. I didn't come up with a name, but the K. This is my story. This is my memory, anyway.
I came up with Mortal and the K instead of a C.
Yeah, well, you know what's going to happen? We're going to come up with all the names. We're all going to like them, and that's going to hate every one of them. Why? DEFCON is overused. Where? Everywhere. I've heard that so many times.
Yeah, every time you watch War Game.
Ed's probably right behind me, isn't he? Like going, no, you didn't.
I think there's different stories going on. This is my recollection. It's been 30 years. We had a bunch of words written on a grease board.
We didn't have a name, so there was a bunch of possibilities, and one of them was Mortal Kombat.
Combat was written, I don't know if it had a K at the time, but Steve Ritchie, he said the words, what about Mortal Kombat?
They had combat on their whiteboard, but they were all a lot younger than me, and I'm not sure they ever heard of the phrase they fought in Mortal Kombat, meaning somebody's gonna die. That's what this game is about. It's Mortal Kombat.
And when he said that, from my perspective, it was like, whoa, there's the name right there. But I don't remember. Do you remember where the K came from?
Yeah, so, what I remember was that. And then I think we went to legal with that name, Mortal Kombat with a C. And they came back and said no, because they couldn't trademark it. Because it was, I guess, a common term. I remember it was John Vogel, who wrote the K.
Yeah.
And in fact, he might have done that before that conversation with the legal department. As a joke, I was in the room with Ed. As a joke, I changed the C to a K, and we were like laughing about it. Ha ha ha, that'd be funny. Oh, it's so stupid. And then so I said, all right. And I was putting it back to a C, and he goes, no, leave it. Just leave the K. And so that's my memory as how it happened.
No, it was me, because the C was like, I don't know, just look cooler with the K. That's my thoughts.
And then I think we went back to legal and said, what about if it has a K? And then they went away, and then they came back and said, yes, you can. If you put a K on it, we can trademark it.
Actually, John Vogel's involvement does ring a bell for me.
I don't think I was enamored with the K. I thought it was goofy. And then when the realization hit that, well, if we change it with a K, we can use Mortal Kombat, it's like, oh, damn it. We're going to give it, like, Vogel was right.
Yeah.
So whether you hate me or love me for it, now C's are now K's.
So Steve Ritchie and John Vogel want to argue about it. That's funny.
This is the sound area. This is where they make all the sounds for the games.
I am an audio director here at NetherRealm. The sound guy, like, gotta get the voices in.
Dan shows you cool stuff every couple of days. He just comes in and you go, great, this is awesome.
And he's a lot like Ed, where I just have this confidence that, he's going to go away and come back with something spectacular.
That's the Johnny Cage Nut Crunch, I believe. Didn't someone make a candy bar, Johnny Cage Nut Crunch bar?
Again, we didn't know what we were doing, so it's just, okay, it's a fighting game. A lot of yelling, a lot of pain. I don't think we had enough memory to record okay, this is Scorpion's voice, this is Sub-Zero. So we just, like the men, we just mixed and matched. I think Sonya was the only female in the first one, so we had obviously a female voice for that, and that was hers. But the rest of them, I think, would just be shared. We'd just get the talent, which was just people around the studio. It's not like we were hiring people to come in and do this.
We recorded me as the announcer, as Shang Tsung. You know, Liu Kang wins. Finish him.
Liu Kang wins. Fatality.
You know, fatality. All of those kind of classic sound calls was me, because we didn't have somebody with a better voice. Later on, we found Steve Ritchie, who had a much better voice in terms of like an announcer.
Baraka wins. Flawless victory. Fatality.
I did a terrible Bruce Lee impersonation for Liu Kang. I think I did a yell for Kano.
Kano wins.
But I was also the voice of Scorpion, you know, yelling, "Get over here."
Come here! Get over here!
Excellent.
I had worked with Dan Forden for many years at the time. I remember there was another sound guy who
Get over here!
the stupidest thing in the world. And it kind of was, you know, why would a ninja, you know, yell, "Get over here"? That's such a, like an American kind of thing.
Wins.
The idea,
So iconic.
Again, the outrageous presentation we really wanted to have, you know, just yelling and loudness in general into the game. From something that became with such silly roots and beginnings, you can't imagine Scorpion not having the "Get over here."
Ed would get me, this is back in the days of VHS, right? He would get me a playthrough of the background that I'd be working on. These are the instruments that I have, and look at the background, trying to think of like, well, what makes sense musically for this.
You try to imagine the action of playing the game and what the music's gonna do to like get you revved up.
Ever since, I don't know, the 70s, early 70s even, always liked progressive rock a lot. So a friend of mine turned me on to King Crimson in high school, and that's been like a love of mine ever since. And so there's no doubt that there's a lot of King Crimson influence in the Mortal Kombat music that I wrote over the years. You know, like the very first tune, it's a melody in a diminished scale, harmonized at the fifth. So that sounds like a lot of King Crimson stuff. I think they pretty much liked everything I did. I don't remember doing over too many things. Now and then there would be like, you know, maybe you should try this instead of that, and some sort of corrective feedback, but for the most part, it's just we were just kind of making it up as we went along.
That's the guy that did the Toasty!
Testing a game was always one of the most fun parts of the job.
In the earliest days of Mortal Kombat development, the only place you could play the game was in Ed's office. I would play the game every day. Ed would call me in to try something out, but other people, you know, would walk by Ed's office and see what he was working on and come in and play the game. And it was very valuable feedback, because that feedback was coming from guys like Eugene and Mark Trammell and George Petro and, you know, a lot of the other developers in the office at the time. Eventually, we would put a game out in the hallway for anybody to play. And so we'd get pinball designers would come down and play the game. There were folks who worked in the factory would come back and they'd play the game. And so we'd watch folks kind of play the game, and we'd take notes on sort of, you know, what the reactions were. And then eventually that would lead to our first weekend test.
Testing the game in the arcade was such a critical part of determining what's working and what doesn't work.
Being on test is like one of the best parts, one of the most exciting parts of doing an arcade game.
Our first location test was a weekend test that we did, and that was done at an arcade called Times Square. It was a Friday night, so it was packed. The arcade was packed. and there was a crowd around the Street Fighter game. Street Fighter 2 was out at the time, and I just thought, there's no way these guys are coming over to play our game.
It was like this big event. The whole video game department would go, no matter whose game it was.
You'd roll a blank black cabinet into an arcade and just turn it on.
When we brought the first Mortal Kombat game out on test, there were 6 characters. We didn't have Sonya yet. A whole bunch of things just weren't working. And it was all about just kind of the fundamentals, the feel of it, the reaction to the visual, the reaction to blood.
That rush, that reverie, or the destruction and devastation if something doesn't work out, you know, like, it's like, oh, we got to fix that, you know, and it hurts, you know, it feels bad.
I remember watching the first player. He was one of the guys from the crowd walking over and looking at the attract mode and then dropping a token in and playing the game. And then I remember he walked over, tapped, fell on the shoulder, you know, called him over, and then the other guy came over, and then they played the game. And then slowly people migrated over.
Whenever you would see a secret move come out, I remember the first time they saw Raiden do the dive move, you know, you'd hear an audible, you know, cheering or gasp, or, you know, how did you do that? Easily the most enjoyable part for me was seeing and hearing reactions from players.
And at some point, Ed, I think, went in and he did a fatality. Kind of a thing, and then he walked away, you know. Like, now it's a big frenzy to figure out, like, how do you do that? How do you do that? And that's how people found out about the fatalities, assuming my memory is correct, but I believe that's how it happened.
We would never perform fatalities in front of people because then someone's going to see you do it, right? Like, we wanted to launch the game and have people discover it naturally and organically. Testing the first Mortal Kombat, there was a certain amount of anonymity, I guess you can say. Like, we could be in an arcade watching with a crowd of other people and be close enough in age to them that we just kind of blend in. You know, what is this new game? And then you would get a candid response. Once you tell them that you worked on the game, then you know, they're not going to say anything negative about it.
Across the street from Times Square was a pizza place. And so we would go across the street, get some pizza, and we would discuss, you know, everything that we saw, what was cool, what was not cool, or, you know, what should we change? You know, hey, that was cool, and it was so much fun.
Seeing that first game on test was so reaffirming that we had something big. I saw players get so excited they just had to run. They just had to run around like in circles.
By the end of that night, we had a pack of players around our game, hooting and hollering and just having a, you know, a great time.
Players that we saw first see the game on a Friday, we saw them the entire weekend.
And I think at that point I thought, okay, we're gonna be okay.
This was our first game that we were doing kind of as the leaders of the game. You know, Mark Trammell was the kind of leader of the Smash TV team, and Eugene was kind of the leader of the High Impact team, along with John Newcomer. And so this was kind of like our first solo project.
I think they have complementary skill sets.
We're symbiotic in a way. Certainly in the first few games, it was just like we just knew what the other person was looking for. And I don't know that we ever, I mean, if we had an argument, it certainly wasn't about the work that we were doing. We just seemed to know what the other person was looking for.
They worked well because they trusted each other's talents enough to say, okay, yeah, you know what you're talking about. Ed took care of all the programming. John took care of all the art.
They just had this unsaid, hey, you know, it'd be fun. Yeah, that's awesome. Let's do it.
Working with Ed, one of his great strengths were just his focus, I think, and his ability to just grind and get things done. Ed, who was the sole programmer to create that game, in hindsight was incredible.
For one programmer to do all those games is pretty amazing. And
his door is always open. He wants to hear new ideas. He's dangerously funny, where it just busts me up at least once a day.
He would just crack us up all the time, just his jokes, and he made it easy to work the long hours.
John is a really good storyteller. John has a history as a comic book artist. So I think that probably contributed to his ability to tell a compact story. The only story we had was a little paragraph that would play underneath the character doing a kata. But that was enough to really intrigue players.
You really gave a shit about it because of the backstory, because about the whole mythology that John Tobias had created. You know, maybe not unlike WWF or something, almost like Star Wars in martial arts.
The first game truly was like an expression of just who we were at the time. You know, we were in our early 20s. The stuff that we consumed growing up as kids, and we just threw it all into the game. There was nobody telling us what to do, how to do it.
I think it was a great partnership, and I think, you know, what can you say? Success beyond belief.
Fighting games have proven themselves to be strong collectors suitable for a wide range of locations. They embody the most attractive elements of the arcade experience. Characters endowed with mythic powers, full player control, secret moves, and the kind of unbridled, head-to-head competition that compels repeat buying. Now from Midway comes Mortal Kombat. It captures the most popular elements of the fighting game and adds more. More control, more powerful characters, more depth, more secret moves, and advanced digitized graphics delivering the most realistic fighting action available. Begin Mortal Kombat by choosing one of 7 characters, each boasting an arsenal of unique talents. There's Johnny Cage, the brash Hollywood movie star. Kano, thief and mercenary. Raiden, the mythical thunder god. Liu Kang, the fighting Shaolin monk. Scorpion, a ninja warrior bent on revenge. Sub-Zero, the ultimate assassin. And Sonya, U.S. Special Forces soldier. Each player has 5 basic moves corresponding to the 5 action buttons. High punch. High kick. Low punch. Low kick. And a block. In addition to these moves, players will continue to discover new joystick button combinations. Each new technique provides another competitive edge. For example, moving the joystick away from your opponent while pressing the low kick button will result in this sweep kick. Moving the joystick straight down will put the player in a crouch. By then releasing the joystick and pressing low punch, you'll administer a devastating uppercut.
Cage wins.
Secret moves play a big part in the success of any fighting game. Collections soar as players strive to develop a character's full fighting potential. Mortal Kombat has several times more secret moves than the nearest competitor. The button joystick combinations required to execute these moves are different for each character, as are the moves themselves. And each character's arsenal of secret moves offers unique tactical advantages. If you learn one of Sonya's secret moves, you'll be able to perform this devastating scissor throw. Learning to activate Raiden's secret weapon lets you fire lightning bolts at your opponents.
Raiden wins.
Victory is achieved by winning 2 out of 3 rounds. Players losing a match will have to buy in to continue.
Liu Kang wins.
Finally, winning 3 matches against paired adversaries will put you in the ring opposite Goro, a 4-armed, unstoppable titan, half human, half dragon. Should Goro be subdued, you'll engage the most deceptive and powerful opponent of all, Shang Tsung, the bloodthirsty emperor capable of instantly becoming any fighter he chooses. Conquer Shang Tsung, and you will have joined unfrequented ranks, those who have battled all adversaries, yet survived.
Your might.
Every 5 matches during both 1- and 2-player games, you'll have a chance to test your strength and win bonus points by smashing progressively harder objects. Two-player mode allows true head-to-head combat. Players must rely on their fighting abilities, as well as a knowledge of their character's strengths, as they are matched against an opponent with different but equally lethal abilities. Each player selects a character and the match begins. The player losing the best-of-3 match will have the option of buying in to continue. The winning player will continue to play as long as he maintains a string of victories. Loser pays, winner stays. From a technical standpoint, operators will find even more to like. Mortal Kombat employs Midway's exclusive diagnostic package and a sensitive, yet durable, 8-way microswitch joystick. In addition, operators will want to be aware of a dip switch setting we've included, allowing them to temper the game to fit the requirements of a location. By simply flipping a switch on the CPU board, you're able to remove any depictions of blood that would otherwise appear in the game. Another dip switch will disable the most graphic secret moves. In this way, operators can be sure they're matching the game to the disposition of their clientele. Mortal Kombat is quite simply the most complete video fighting game available. It boasts the industry's most realistic graphics, digitized images of real martial arts experts, heroic characters more powerful than those found on any other fighting game, secret moves to learn and master, and fierce battles against titanic adversaries. All of these elements combine to make this game powerfully unique, the world's most advanced interactive fighting experience.
Interesting. That's the sales pitch for the game from back in the day.
Fighting games of that era kind of all had this level of secrecy to them. Mortal Kombat, I think, took that to a very extreme level.
You had to guess like the moves and how to figure out the codes.
I think Street Fighter did something like that, right? They didn't document any of the moves, so we took that same approach.
I think not having a move list, there was so much to explore, and you had no idea of what you were still missing. It was another thing, it built up so much mystique to the game.
But then we kind of extended it, right, with the fatalities and whatnots. Especially at the end with the character Dizzy, there was a certain amount of, you know, what are you going to do? You would see them trying to trigger something else. They knew that there was something secret in there.
The announcer's like, finish him! And you go up and go, boom. And you're like, damn it! I screwed up the fatality. It's like the worst feeling in the world.
And, you know, everyone was playing as Kano because in the early days before people, you know, knew what most of the moves were, Kano's moves were just, I don't know, move the joystick in a circle real fast and he'll turn into a ball and do it, or hit block and mash the buttons, I don't know.
First character I played was Kano, and I found the ball attack and the knife throw, and within the first day I found the fatality too.
Kano wins.
I was finding stuff right away.
I remember being in your office, and I remember you showing me what the button combinations were, and then you have to be standing this far away from the other character, and I remember thinking to myself, there's no way anybody's gonna figure this out. No one's ever gonna do this. And literally, like the first weekend, they figured it out right away. Yeah.
You know, the fatalities and special moves and things like those were things that you kind of had to trade around.
Because you'd hear people chattering like, oh, there's this move, and not having the internet at the time to go to, it made it very social.
If you knew something that wasn't, you know, widespread knowledge, you could take that down to the arcade and pull it out on somebody and really blow some mind.
So a lot of hand watching. Where did you stand? The most premium spots are literally right behind it, like right between two people, or on the corners, because those are the only spots where you were able to see the screen and people's hands at the same time.
There was so much in there, and it really requires a fan base to come together and share, to work together to play them and solve them and uncover the secrets and all that stuff.
I was always obsessed with those kinds of things. I was a big fan of Street Fighter, and there was this rumor that was not true that there was a character in there called Sheng Long. And I remember when we had started this game thinking, you know, we have to have a real secret character. And so there was a Sunday, and Scorpion was yellow, Sub-Zero was blue, and I went into the art program and tinted him green, made up these crazy rules in terms of how to find him, made him jump out occasionally and kind of tease you with his existence, put it together in one day, didn't even tell John about it, and was just kind of wondering how many people are going to pick up on this. It became a bit of like a Bigfoot. Some people had sightings and some people didn't, because there was this one that was real and was rather difficult to find. It could give players a little bit of creative license to come up with something and say that they did see something else happening in the game.
The level of secrets that happened in those first few Mortal Kombat games kind of corresponds with the rise of the internet. And people started trading around like, hey, here's a list of, I think these are fatalities.
I remember going home to my dad's house, and he had internet. He had a CompuServe account. And I started learning.
I hear that old dial-up tone.
And I'm like, Dad, can I go back to the arcade? I want to try some of this stuff.
I made it my mission to test all that stuff out. And that became my calling. We need to investigate.
I published my first FAQ, and it is the most inaccurate piece of junk that is available. It's like shameful, but it's where I started.
And then, you know, all these urban legends about Ermac and all these other alleged characters that it's kind of like, you know, how the kids used to say back in the day, the negative worlds in Mario Brothers and Mario could go skiing. You know, it's that kind of like, you know, the kid equivalent of water cooler conversations.
People would come up with lore, you know,
Yeah,
lies
right.
of,
That's
of,
right.
I did this and that happened, and everybody's, you know, and we just shut up.
A friend of mine in high school said he was cousins with someone who filmed for the game, and that there was a secret character that they had filmed. So I put it in my FAQ. And I trusted him and found out way later he was just messing with me.
The people feeding in things that they'd want to see in the game would kind of blend in with what was really there. sometimes you'd see a move and then it was gone. You'd be like, I swear this was in there. Did that really happen? Like, there was no way to capture it.
A friend of mine, his little brother was playing the game and told me about Kano's laser beam.
Yeah, that's right.
And I remember telling my friend's younger brother, there's no laser beam. He's like, no, I saw it. And so I know he's mistaken with what, I don't know what he saw, but he didn't see that. This mythology was being built by the player base. I think we understood that pretty early on, and Ed, more than anybody, I think really took advantage of that and kind of messed with the players with hiding stuff in the game.
Yeah, I remember somebody found one of Sonya's moves, and I foolishly changed it because I read it on a news group, thinking, I got the best of that.
And they did some devious things to keep a lot of those things secret. I think there was a revision of Mortal Kombat 2 where they just arbitrarily changed all the fatalities because everyone figured them out too fast. And it's maybe the most devious and mean thing they've ever done.
I remember thinking at that point, this internet thing has got me. You can't beat it. You can't defeat it. It's just too powerful.
One of the fun things about going to an arcade was, a lot of people didn't have the internet just yet. So people would show up with their copy of their FAQ. Once I was there and I saw someone with my guide, like my FAQ, and I was like, oh, where'd you get that? He's like, oh, the guy who wrote it sold it to me. And I was like, what do you mean sold it to you? I wrote it.
We had a Mortal Kombat comic book that John drew, and we were the ones stuffing the envelopes. And we started writing messages to players. Sonya has a slide move, She didn't have a slide move. Within a week, I was at, it was like Galen North or something arcade. And some guy was playing Sonya, just keep trying these things. And one of the guys said, what are you looking for? And he goes, I'm looking for Sonya's slide move,
Sub-Zero has a slide move.
Looking for it. But we were just adding fuel to that fire.
Most of those secrets went unknown to me until much later in life when walkthroughs on YouTube became a thing, and I was like, whoa, I totally missed a lot of stuff in a lot of games.
To us, secrets were basically replay value, and that was the most important thing for us. Having more to do with the game, having more to discover, more to enjoy.
We love the idea of, just this question mark over the game. What else is in there that nobody else has found? And it just made the game that much more mysterious.
Hold up.
try the one you were talking about. Where she.
Could you like probably in the mat? You just do the handstand and then you go over. Yeah. All you have to do is just land right there.
Okay, can you do that or is that?
That's great. Is that enough for you?
Yeah, let's try it one more time and just step up a little bit, just in case I need anything before, just in case.
Start a little bit further up.
Can you start on the mat?
Okay, now once from the very middle, act like you're just getting into it. You even have to. This is so we can do the beginning part.
She should do it from the stance.
Right, from your stance.
Get like in your stance, just act like you're getting into it. Actually, she should step up.
Move to the middle of where you're.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, that's gonna be a good move. You'll be impressed when you see what we turn that into.
Oh, I see. That's where that came from.
Stance.
Are they whistling Indiana Jones?
Try doing this out like this. Yeah. A little slower, yeah. Okay. That's good. I should be able to get some. And now let's do the second one. More like this. Right. Okay, that's good. Yeah, keep it open. Keep it open.
Yeah. Try and do a little more body. And try like rocking. Something. Okay. When you just go. And actually,
So when Street Fighter 2 came out, I wasn't really too impressed by it. I think I finished it once, picked Zangief because I was a wrestling fan, and then kind of moved on. I eventually kind of fell in with a crowd that really got a lot out of Street Fighter 2, and so suddenly it became very apparent I need to get great at that game. One guy showed up and said, "Hey, have you heard of this other game, Mortal Kombat?" I'm like, no. What is Mortal Kombat? And he said, "Well, you know, it's like Street Fighter, but you can fucking kill people." Okay, well, we need to go see this game right now.
I absolutely remember the first time I played Mortal Kombat. It was at Lions Family Fun, my favorite arcade.
My dad would usually give my brother and me $5 each and let us run wild while he went shopping.
I was at an arcade in Virginia.
The Q Lounge in the Bronx, New York. It was a space that was half smoky pool hall, half arcade.
He took us to an arcade 2 towns north, up to Santa Rosa. There was a place called Systems City. And it was like part skate shop, but in the back room, all the lights were off, and they had like 5 arcade machines back there.
I see this huge crowd gathered around a new cabinet.
And it was sitting there. There was nobody around it.
No one was playing it. It was just sitting there. What is this?
I just remember just like a big line around the cabinet.
Everyone is crowded around Mortal Kombat. It is simultaneously exactly like and nothing like Street Fighter. You know, the film, the presentation, the real actors and actresses and all of that. Really just, it's so striking.
In Mortal Kombat, when you're seeing those 2 big characters on the screen, I was just like, this is the coolest thing ever.
Instantly, it was like, oh, it's digitized, it's real people. It was like, wow, this is incredible. It's like, how are they doing this? How did this game come to be?
I was blown away by how it looked.
Because it was a violent, bloody game.
Like, that's the first time I'd seen blood in a video game that I remembered.
Even from a basic high punch, you just see blood flying out of these people's heads.
Even if I couldn't do the specials of certain characters, I could fall into a rhythm that just felt so good. Just like, you know, air kick, uppercut. And I was, I feel like the baddest
In a time where you didn't see that kind of stuff in games, and especially in arcades where kids were, you know, running around with their parents, and parents were still freaking out too, kind of seeing what was happening.
My dad came up behind me. I didn't know this at the time, but the screen went dark. Kano ripped out a heart and held it up, blood dripping from it, and my dad went, "Oh, no, and whisked me out of the arcade. And that's when I knew I had to play that game, because I was not allowed to play that game.
People getting chopped in half and torsos being dismembered.
Okay, wins. Flawless fatality.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that in a video game. I didn't know that was allowed in a video game.
And we're, you know, 16, 17 at the time, so this is the most exciting thing in the world.
The endings and how every character had, even though Street Fighter, they had an ending, but Mortal Kombat was like the first thing that really affected me, that was like, I really want to play all these characters to see what happens. And this is before YouTube, so it wasn't like you could just go on YouTube and watch it. You had to, you know, earn it, right?
What's Kano's backstory? You know, what about Sonya? That's what we wanted to know about. And, you know, they specified a lot of it kind of in, you know, various screens and whatnot. You know, we were hooked.
But it didn't take long from there for that game to be literally everywhere. Every single pizza place, 7-Eleven, arcades, the arcades that were left at that point, all of them had a Mortal Kombat machine probably within a month.
Oh crap! You can actually read the Oh damn! All right. Hell yeah! I'll read that sometime. Just not right now.
The idea to produce a comic book for the first MK game, that started with me. Coming from comic books, I had a great desire to sort of tell this story that we weren't able to tell in the game. And so I thought, what better place to do it in a comic book? I talked to Ed about it, and so Ed thought it was a great idea, and I think the both of us went to Roger Sharp to try to see if there was any money that we could get from marketing to help us produce this comic book.
I tried to always do stuff that I thought would be special, and John, pulled together. There's a comic book.
I wasn't getting paid anything extra to draw this comic, so I wrote the story and did the illustrations. Roger was able to scrape up, I think, a few $1,000s for the printing, and we were able to produce a few thousand copies of this comic, and we weren't sure how many we were going to sell. There was an advertisement in the game, and players would see the advertisement in the track mode, and they would mail in a check for $3. Sometimes they would mail cash. Ed and I would get bags of envelopes, sent to a P.O. box, and they would ship us these boxes of comics. It's okay, well, who's gonna pack and mail these things? And so there was nobody to do that, so Ed and I ended up sitting in his office with boxes of comics. We were the ones opening each envelope, collecting the money, writing the addresses on the envelopes, packing the comics, and mailing them all out. I remember we did that one weekend, it was just Ed and I. And then we decided, we invited other people around the office, like, hey, come and help us pack the comics, and we'll buy you pizza. Every once in a while I would sign one. We would write these weird encryptions on the envelopes. Sometimes I would draw a picture on the envelope, little messages to the players. I don't know if anybody ever saved any of that stuff. Eventually, I think we were in over our heads because the stuff just kept coming.
And sales took off. We had to go back in and reprint the comic book.
And then eventually Roger, I think, handled, I don't know who he paid to do the packing and the mailing and stuff.
We were packaging and boxing up, thank you, Jeanette and Alice, to get everything out to people.
But the first, I think, few thousand comic books were hand packed and hand addressed by, Ed and myself and a couple of the other folks around the office.
And that was the start of the merchandising program for Mortal Kombat.
That's pretty cool that you can actually read the comic books. That's pretty cool. That's pretty dope. Mortal Monday. Prepare yourself. I actually have the soundtrack to the OG Mortal Kombat game from 1992, done by the Immortals. I still got the OG CD. Oh, there's the Mortal Monday commercial. Hell yeah. That was the sound right there that was used in the theme song. Test you, Mortal Kombat. Fight. Mortal Monday.
The first time I saw a crowd gathered around a Mortal Kombat cabinet when I was 10 told me that, okay, this game is a big deal at my arcade. I had no idea if that translated outside my arcade. Then Mortal Monday happened. Not just the day itself, but the build-up to it.
Seeing the zeitgeist around it was huge. Conversations around Mortal Monday were happening, the first kind of big marketing push.
Acclaim was clearly, they knew what they had in their hands, and so they were doing a much bigger effort in promoting it. I remember them telling us that they were going to spend $10 million to advertise this game, and I remember saying, are you sure you want to put that kind of money behind this? And in retrospect, of course, that was a great decision. But I remember being really paranoid, thinking, you know, that they were putting a lot on this game.
The preparation for the release of Mortal Kombat was just massive. I was working at Babbage's software. Pre-sales had started early, so like we knew we were going to be just selling out. It was all I could talk about.
I remember going to see a movie, I can't remember which film it was, and they were advertising Mortal Mondays, which was one of the greatest marketing blitzes in video game history. And it was just, you know, all these random kids yelling in the middle of a city street, Mortal Kombat, right?
That commercial with like people running down the street screaming Mortal Kombat, and they were teens, and I was a little kid, and teens are the coolest thing you could be when you're a little kid.
You don't have to show screenshots or anything else necessarily. Everybody knew. All you have to do is just have somebody out in the middle of the street just putting up his arm saying Mortal Kombat. It's almost like, hi, it's here. It sells itself.
Dun, 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 dun. Fight.
Mortal Kombat commercial. What is Mortal Kombat? And there was always like one kid who knew a little more.
Finish
It's
him.
a video game, but you kill people. And all of us at Maplewood Elementary School were like, whoa!
We had 2 front monitors that were just showcasing Mortal Kombat videos, and
In the comics, on the back of the comics, there were Mortal Monday ads. There were Mortal Kombat ads in magazines. There were Mortal Kombat ads in subways.
You know, just seeing the standees and the posters and things at Times Square and
the signage that was coming in, every piece of memorabilia that was coming in, and T-shirts, and it was just over the top compared to other games.
I remember just being nervous about it, thinking, I hope this game lives up to it. Even though it was a huge arcade game, you know, you just never know. All.
It was insane. There was a giant line, and it was just so exciting.
That's when I realized, like, this is actually a bigger deal than maybe any video game that's come before it. Mortal Kombat became a pillar of popular culture within 12 months. It was, I think, the fastest a video game had ever exploded to date.
Nothing could prepare you for it. It was
Prepare
just
yourself.
insane.
Prepare yourself. Man, I really miss these days. You know what? I know I have it in here. Where are you? Oh, I don't have the case. But I had the game that's inside the case. I know it's in reverse, but you know what it is by looking at it. Pay no attention to my background. But I also have this. I have to show this off because I'm a huge Mortal Kombat nerd myself. Yep. I always was a fan of Mortal Kombat. I even have... Hold up. If I can find it. Bruh. if I... Wait a minute. I think that's it. Come here. Super Game Boy, what the hell? Bruh. I guess I'm gonna have to start pulling stuff out just to get to it. First of all, I don't like my GameCube games just being shoved in there. Sunset Runners, Link to the Past, All Stars. Whew! I was gonna get mad for a second. But I found it. Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. Whew. And then I should have shown this last night when I was playing it on Livestream, but no biggie. That's the game we started with yesterday. The PlayStation version of the game. That was what the back of it looked like. And all that good stuff. Yeah, good old days. Oh, I think I should have church on. There we are. I also had the Nintendo 64 version of Trilogy and MK4. I'm a huge Mortal Kombat nerd, if you hadn't noticed already. But that was the only reason why I turned my camera on. I'll go ahead and turn it back off. Okay, back to it. Abacab. Yep, I remember that. ABACABB. Dullard. That would be down, up, left, left, A, right, down. The Sega CD version. Huh.
We were aware that Acclaim had a deal that they were going to do all the home games, because also they had done super high impact for the home. And Acclaim had their kind of production group, which was our main point of contact, but then they had the two software houses, you know, Probe and Sculpture. And so there was a lot of communication that had to kind of bounce back and forth.
Probe offered me Mortal Kombat on the Mega Drive, the Genesis.
I just showed my copy of that.
Yes, I'm free, I'm available. Like, a job's a job, and I said, well, what is it? They were able to kind of actually bring me an arcade machine into my house. And kind of started playing it, and I thought, well, this looks easy enough.
When Mortal Kombat 1 was going to be made for the Super Nintendo, through Sculptured Software, we had a programmer that was from outside our place, and brought him in and said, hey, you're the main guy. And that did not go as well as we would have wanted it to go.
Ed and I would get versions of the game, and so I would give feedback in terms of the pixel art as best I could. Of course, the home games at the time, they didn't have quite the capabilities that we did in the arcade.
I think the biggest problem that we had wasn't as much the power of the machine, but how big the memory of the Mega Drive was. In A, we had to shrink all the sprites really down as much as we possibly could, and there's a lot of frames of animation in there. You know, we started off by kind of basically taking out every other frame, and that wasn't enough. So then we had to take out like 3 out of 5 frames, and then kind of concentrate on the important animations, the ones that let you see most. Williams have a like a method of writing. It's almost like a kind of multi-threading. It's like that there's a number of different programs all operating at the same time. So one of those programs operates one of the characters, one program operates one of the weapons, one of them operates the background, and all of those different little programs can speak to each other. That isn't a method of programming I had any experience of. It took me a while to work it out. A kind of Probe were getting very nervous because there wasn't anything on the screen. I was working, there wasn't anything on the screen. And then eventually I was able to basically kind of translate the original code almost line by line. It kind of worked, and the whole thing kind of came to life.
I hear you.
What it meant as well, though, was that it was very accurate, you know, very close to the original arcade version in terms of how it feels playing it. So then everyone was then very happy with me, which was which was great.
Genesis played much better, and it had the blood, the abacab, and all that.
Get over here!
Abacab, then Dullard to activate cheats and whatnot. Put the blood back in the game, because originally you couldn't get the blood without the code.
The Nintendo version looked great, but it didn't play as good as the Genesis version.
Well, plus it didn't have the blood on it.
He made some missteps at the beginning of the project, and it was really hard to finish. These were conversions. These were not original games. You're trying to take the code and the assets and port it to that platform. they had this little multi-processing system in there. He said, I don't like the way that works. I want to do it my way. So he's going against the grain the whole time.
Johnny Cage wins.
The quality of the game was something that that was important to us. I know Ed was a stickler in terms of what he was willing to approve.
Come here!
And, you know, we were down to the wire. We were, you know, saying that, you know, we're not going to prove it until you fix this, this, and that. And
I ended up having to help him, so it got done. It played not quite as well.
They needed to build millions of cartridges.
That's why I had the Sega Genesis version, not the Super Nintendo version of Mortal Kombat 1.
So those two things kind of conflicted a couple of times. And there was some tension there.
The Game Gear version, which I would never, ever try to play this. I mean, I could on here, but I would never actually physically own this on the Game Gear. There were so many better games on the Game Gear versus this piece of crap. Oh, man. Even the Game Boy version I heard was even worse. And that was the only stage available. Oh my god, that is so god awful. Okay, what? The original's been associated with a vertically scrolling shooting game owned by other parties. That's why it was changed to Y on the Game Boy. Got it. German. I can tell by looking at the friggin' language.
Mustard and myself grew up in a really small town. The closest thing you would have to an arcade machine is the local bowling alley may have had like a light gun game, but that's pretty much it. It was only the home versions that allowed us to experience the different franchises, and I feel like I unofficially speak for quite a lot of people our age, how important getting those home versions as good as they were was. So that the rest of us could still experience it in different parts of the world, the arcades weren't as common, especially those small towns.
Which side was I on in the home versions? There's only one side. Like, what do you know, it's just the Genesis version. There's only one version of the game.
They don't even claim the Super Nintendo version.
The Super Nintendo version is a travesty by comparison.
I agree. That's why I never got that version. That's why I have the Sega Genesis version.
I actually thought that even though the Genesis was a little behind graphically than the Super Nintendo, I liked the grittier look of the Genesis version. It really felt kind of down and dirty the way Mortal Kombat should.
I mean, also the Genesis version had the blood code. And the real fatalities.
It was just a superior version.
Code and all the other cool stuff in it. I think that made up for like the music in the Genesis version being really hokey and some of that other stuff.
My friend had a Genesis. They got Mortal Kombat. His mom would come in every now and then just to look at the screen to make sure there was no blood flying. And so what we would do is we would enter the blood code, we'd play a match or two, and then we'd hit reset turn off the blood code, keep playing when she came in, and then she'd leave and we'd turn the blood code back on.
Nintendo screwed the pooch by didn't allow the blood in the game, and they instead put sweat in it, which the Genesis version outsold the SNES version like 3-1 or something like that. Everybody wanted the violence, you know, they wanted the blood.
Mm-hmm.
The Super Nintendo
That's what made the game more fun.
blood. Like the act of playing that game is so unlike playing the actual arcade game.
So I really wanted Mortal Kombat. Not just to fit in, but because I loved it. I wanted it so bad, but my family didn't have a ton of money. So I scraped together all the money I had, and I was able to finally afford Mortal Kombat for the Game Boy. And that game
God.
is a experience.
I bet. A horrible one. Ugh. Gross. I'm cringing looking at it. Oh God.
Mortal Kombat in the arcade, it's a little bit heavy and you feel the power of those hits. Mortal Kombat on the Game Boy moved like two frozen people were slowly trying to get close enough to hug. When you push the punch button, it would eventually move the fist forward a little bit, maybe.
Oh God. Oh God. Oh man.
I cannot do a fatality in this game. I know for a fact they exist because the computer can do the fatalities on that pit level. Instead of having them fall off the stage onto spikes, at the end of each part of the level were just little drawn spikes in the background that you could knock them onto. And I think that was their like makeshift solution for having a stage-based fatality.
That is just awful, dude.
Even as a kid, I knew it was not the best version.
It was worst.
I loved it so much. I even put in a Game Genie code that let you play as Goro. Like, I did every secret possible. I was going to squeeze every single dollar I put into that game.
I would hope so. Even though
And
it's just...
own it, and I'll still play it occasionally because I'm kind of a masochist. But it's...
Masochist! Like you enjoy the pain?
A Mortal Kombat game that's so weird and watered down and slow that it
I cringed watching Mortal Kombat on the game, and even on the Game Gear wasn't that much better, but it was a little bit better than the Game Boy version. The Game Boy version was just garbage. This is still pretty bad, though. I'm not gonna lie, but it's still better than the Game Boy version. And that's sad to say. No.
I mean, they may not have been like arcade perfect, but to us, we didn't know any better. We didn't have anything to comparison. All we cared about was just, you know, play the game, have fun with it, you know, enjoy what we were doing, and that was...
For MK1, the Sega Genesis version of the MK1 was probably the best version, home console-wise. Sega Genesis was definitely the best one, and that's why I have it. I do have the Sega Genesis version because it was it's the best version for the home consoles. Oh, I didn't know they had this little rockin' sock'em robot Mortal Kombat version. That's pretty cool. $40, Fallen 94. This thing was $40 back in 1994. Oh man, I mean, don't get me wrong, that looks kind of cool, and they talk. Oh wow, I never knew about this. That's wild. Sure is. I can only imagine how much they are now. Turbo Touch 3D. Turbo Touch 3D. I wonder if you can even find one of those nowadays. Turbo Touch 360. Huh. It's for Genesis, Super Nintendo. It's just the controller, though. That has to be just the controller. But it's specifically for Mortal Kombat 1. Herbert Cole. Joseph Lever and Herbert Cole. Y'all can go to hell. Y'all tried to put video games out of business because y'all didn't like how violent the games were. Get out of here.
Blood splatters from the contestants' heads. When a player wins, the so-called death sequence begins. The game narrator instructs the player to finish, and I quote, finish his opponent.
$300? Yeah, nah, fam. I'm good. Mm-mm. So ESRB was born at the end of '94. What we know today, ESRB rates games from E. Yep, Mortal Kombat was the reason why ESRB was a thing. Video Games Ratings Act of 1994. You can actually read this entire thing that they had to do to make ESRB a thing. ESRB stands for Entertainment Rating, or I can't remember exactly what it was called. There it is. Entertainment Software Ratings Board. That's what ESRB stands for. Entertainment Software Ratings Board. So it came out June of 1994. So the month that Morgan was born, my sister was born in June of '94. That's when ESRB came out. Wow, that's wild. Accepted as an industry standard in June of '94 with minor revisions. System is still in use today. Yep.
Video games were becoming more and more sophisticated, maturing.
It was around that time that we were realizing that video games aren't just for kids. The manufacturers of the home consoles still kind of thought of them that way. It's like, hey, this is a toy for kids.
We never made Mortal Kombat for 6-year-olds or anything like that. That was never the intention.
Obviously.
Guys in their 20s, what kind of video game are they going to make?
In our minds, we were creating the game for a certain demographic of player.
Fans of Terminator, Bloodsport, Alien, Predator, all these movies. It was a game by guys in their 20s, for guys in their 20s, and nobody mentioned anything during the arcade days.
Once the game came home on the consoles, came into people's living rooms, that was a shocker to the moms and dads of suburbia.
Blood splatters from the contestants' heads. When a player wins, the so-called death sequence begins. The game narrator instructs the player to finish, and I quote, finish his opponent.
My parents were very worried about the violence in Mortal Kombat because eventually they saw the news stories. They saw the news stories that were like you could rip out someone's spine or you could light them on fire. Like I had a friend who was not allowed to go to another friend's house because he had played Mortal Kombat with him.
And we also really didn't see a lot of animated blood in video games back then. It seems so commonplace today.
Matthew's the reason why I got into Mortal Kombat back in those days.
And violent movies. Why is it different?
No one's looking at movies in the same way as they're looking at video games.
Rock music before it, and comics and heavy metal.
I grew up in a time Elvis Presley's body was blacked out from the waist down because he was gyrating, and God only knows what that's going to do to today's youth.
I do think that there was a number of kind of politicians and other people who were looking for a scapegoat. Kind of this was it. It came along at the right time.
Kano wins. Flawless victory.
It was just like, video games are bad, and these are the ones doing it. I think the thing that made me most angry about it was it just felt like no one involved in any of this had ever actually played a video game or seen this stuff outside of very carefully selected footage.
It was like fairly kind of innocuous, and it was like kind of cartoon violence.
And yeah, it seems violent, but ultimately it's really just funny.
Yeah, it's like Evil Dead, isn't it?
The very idea that like Mortal Kombat was somehow going to destroy society or the fabric of our youth or anything was always ridiculous.
These home games had no system of ratings, right? Like a CD would say explicit lyrics or something. A movie would say rated R for violence or whatever. And I think to me that was the fundamental issue. Somebody noticed and somebody objected to it, and we certainly didn't disagree with it.
And so I think that the reaction from Congress and everything at the time almost to me felt appropriate.
Yeah, I'd say having the conversation about violence
I just showed my copy of that
ultimately
a little bit ago.
that was going to happen sooner or later. Is the industry going to be able to self-regulate, or is the government going to have to come in and do a bunch of really dumb things?
I think that the rating system helps people make more informed decisions about what they're buying, and that included Mortal Kombat. If you're a parent who bought their kids games, they probably shouldn't have been playing Mortal Kombat unless you could supervise them. It was the next step in the maturity of the industry, and the rating system was kind of...
I remember those days.
It was a way to say,
I was only allowed to play certain games back then.
here's the type of content, make your own choice.
The rating system and stuff that came from it felt like the right choice, to make.
I think that if video games were like a squalling infant that was just learning how to crawl, Mortal Kombat got them toddling on their feet.
Man, I remember the days where when I rented games from Cinemagic Video, for example, if it was rated M, well, the rating system on the Cinemagic Video cases, I remember they were movie ratings. They weren't game ratings. They were movie ratings. And it would be rated R. If it was rated M, it was rated R. I remember those days, man. It was so... I was a kid. I couldn't understand it, no way. But if it was rated R, I knew I was not allowed to get it. Unless there was an exception, which there hardly was any exceptions. Kind of sucked.
Our experience with the first Mortal Kombat was, it turned out great, but the game was very rushed. It was an 8-month project from concept to shipped game, which was crazy when you think about that. Certainly in my head there was 10.
Oh, I hear you.
Differently. Shortly after Mortal Kombat,
Heck yeah.
Ed and I started to think about what do we want to do next, and one idea we had was we want to do a Star Wars game. Ken Fedesna came down, and I remember us talking excitedly about Star Wars, and Ken's response was, Star Wars, what are you guys talking about with this Star Wars, business? You guys have got to do a sequel to this game. And so that was the first time that I thought, oh, okay, I guess, we're signed up for a
Unreal
sequel.
Tournament. That was a good game.
Warren Davis and all these guys, Todd Allen, everybody was like working on tools to make things better, and we just inherited that.
Oh my God! One of the things that is better about Mortal Kombat 2 from Mortal Kombat 1 is the graphics. Originally, everything was done off of VHS tapes, and it was kind of blurry and stuff.
We eventually started capturing images directly onto the hard drive as opposed to putting it on videotape and then going to the hard drive.
Okay, ready? Is it live or is it ready to go? That was good.
That allowed us to knock out that lossy videotape format that would bleed onto everything.
It just became a more efficient process, a cleaner image for sure.
Outstanding.
We added much better like kind of combo system that was going. You know, you could turn around and kick. Which to this day I can't believe the first Mortal Kombat doesn't have. A lot bigger of a roster. We wanted to expand, so we had 12 characters and, you know, added Jax. That was huge. Katana, Melina, who are synonymous with Mortal Kombat at this point.
I really want that Baraka mask.
One of the reasons I know that we swapped Sonya for Katana Melina was because of their masks. We were able to get 2 for 1. So the same palette swapping technique we used for Scorpion and Sub-Zero, we thought, okay, let's take advantage of this with the female characters.
It would scare the shit out of some people with that mask.
Tony Goski, graphic genius.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You could scare some people with that.
That says, "Hey Tony, we're
definitely scared me as a kid."
Do you want to work on Mortal Kombat? I was an instant yes.
Tony Goski was working on a game called NBA Jam, and he was doing a great job. But he, you know, in his heart, he was a traditional painter, and so when Mortal Kombat 2 came along,
Living
he
Forest.
was a perfect fit.
It was suited my style and things I enjoyed. Fantasy art, starting to get into surrealism with, like say, Dali and Magritte, and it kind of just went that direction, you know.
Tony Goski defined the majority of the look and feel of Mortal Kombat 2, specifically the backgrounds.
Tony's influence came into what does Outworld look like? What does, you know, this really mysterious Mortal Kombat, this fantasy Mortal Kombat, what does that look like?
Introducing the Outworld was huge because it completely carved a new look for Mortal Kombat. Kind of used like Chinese influence, but with graphic and surrealism kind of coming together. It was an iconic stage in MK1, so we made Pit 2. Person, dun dun dun, gets hit, and it would do what we would call a camera cut now, but it would just do a top view of the person doing like this, and the background would scale up, and
He came up with this living forest, and you know, he put my face on the trees.
Oh man.
Albert Brooks all over it. All had to be drawn.
No digitizing for Tony.
What? I did digitize the tree and that's face.
we would digitize that, and then I would draw on top of it the bark and everything to make it look like a tree. Obviously, we all like horror movies and things that are like shocking. You go all the way to the left, and there's a tree kind of looking straight down the fight line, and that's based off Ash from The Evil Dead. That was like one of my favorite backgrounds to work on.
When I was a teenager, I did some stop-action animation just for fun with a Super 8 camera, with clay and toys and stuff like that. When doing Kintaro, there weren't a lot of frames to begin with. It's like, you know, you know, and you know, you would hang on that last, you know, hit or whatever. I would sort of try to mimic what John was doing with main characters as I was doing Kintaro.
For me, what was most exciting was there was this fiction that we would tell a little bit of story just through a couple sentences in the attract mode. And so once the talk of a sequel came about, I knew that, okay, this is our opportunity to tell all this story that we alluded to in the first game. Now we can sort of move things forward.
So I mean, it was just, we're so young. It was like, cool, we're gonna do a number 2. Okay. And that's about my thought process, you know, cool, I still have a job.
you know, initially we had Ed being the announcer for the first Mortal Kombat as Shang Tsung.
Kano. Scorpion. Fight.
And then we wanted to go a different direction for the second one, and so they created this character Shao Kahn.
Round one, fight.
And I'm sure everyone was like, "Oh yeah, that's gonna be Steve." You know?
It's high impact football. Fire, power, 1, 2, enemy destroyed. I am the Black Knight. Voice work in games, I loved it. I loved doing it. If they wanted me, I was there.
If you want a dude with a heavy, deep voice, and you could pitch it down some more and make it sound super basso profundo, that's the guy.
They wanted me to be a 200-year-old Asian man, you know, martial artist. Dan had a structure and a language and a way for me to speak.
Here's the list, do these things, and then a little bit of coaching.
Sonya, Baraka. Round one, fight.
And he, you know, did a great job. And that's it. That's what you hear in the game.
Finish him. Baraka wins. Flawless victory. Fatality.
That voice is, it's my favorite voice. It's fatality. I want to be that guy.
So Ed and I, we worked on these games, and we really liked playing super high impact. There was a machine in the hallway in the back, and we'd go there, have a game or two. In that game, you pick your play, and then the lines come together before you hike the ball. And so as they're doing that, I'm saying, I predict that you're toast. And that evolved into, I predict toasty. And Ed would crack up. George Petro said, you guys should put some of that silly stuff you do in the game.
That's the guy who did it.
Yeah, whatever.
Dan Forden. Toasty! 3D! That was him.
Hey, would you be cool if we like took your face and like when every 100th uppercut, your face comes out and says toasty in the corner of the screen? And I'm like, sure. Let's do that. So that's how that happened. Silliness, right? It's good to have a little bit of silliness.
What you should do, Carlos, is just try to jump off. Try to actually jump straight up and land on your back. I can do that, but I need to land the other way. Okay, ready? Ready? Is it live or is it ready to go? That was good.
That was much better.
There's the guy from Rush Hour. Liu Kang, the guy who played Liu Kang, played bad guy in Rush Hour. Ho Sung Pak.
Hey, you know I saw the trailer for that yesterday?
Yeah, remember that told me about that. They interviewed him on stuff like that.
Yeah.
Jung Tao. Yep, that's him. Yep, same guy who played Jun Tao played Liu Kang in the original first two Mortal Kombat games.
It's like 2 frames that were used.
See, like that's not good. Okay, you know what? That's enough.
Oh my God, that was the best one.
This is Jax before his final touch, his final. Yeah. You'll think of him as Liu Kang, the OG Liu Kang. Yep. That girl played both Melina and Katana. Obviously, she's still in blue, but they palette swap her in pink or purple, whatever, to do Melina. So she played both Katana and Melina. This is the Mortal Kombat 2 behind the scenes. I bet they're having a box fan because I see the box fan in the background. It must have been hot in that production room or whatever. The green screen room, whatever you call it. Man, if only they could have that exact replica of that mask for sale, because I looked up Baraka masks specifically for that one that he's wearing. You can't find it. Not an exact replica. Just other different versions of the mask, which I really want that mask in particular. It looks the absolute scariest, that particular mask. Man, and I bet you they got it somewhere in their vault. If only you could make replicas of that. That looks exactly like it. Maybe. But it has to be made of latex or whatever. I don't know if 3D printers could do latex. Or rubber or whatever. It must be his block. I'm trying to show him how to block. Or the throw. Throw him back. They're just the way they do these recordings of the motion captures back in the day. Pretty mind-blowing. This is how they captured the bicycle kick, I see. He had to sit in a chair and move his legs. Doing the finish him dizzy, and then the head being knocked off. I see John Tobias.
Once in a lifetime, a game comes along that transcends our industry. The theme connects with something deep inside us and embeds itself firmly in the popular culture. Once in a lifetime, a game takes on a life of its own. To millions worldwide, it becomes more than just a video game. It becomes an obsession, a controversy. And they just can't wait to take it home.
Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun.
We've created a monster! Actually, we've created several. What if we could outdo our previous successes? What if we could create a new fighting machine? One that eclipsed every fighting game ever made. One with more depth and more characters. What if, amidst all the furor and recognition, we could release to the world the ultimate fighting experience? We can, and we will, right now.
Dun, 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 dun. There, I was just humming that. Funny enough.
Here it is, Mortal Kombat 2. More characters, 3 times more images, more secret moves, more battlegrounds, more hidden surprises.
Boom. Very
It's the
talented.
first video game to feature our crystal clear DCS sound. These are the 12 combatants. Each possesses an array of special strengths. Liu Kang, Kung Lao, Johnny Cage, Reptile, Sub-Zero, Shang Tsung, Kitana, Jax, Melina, Baraka, Scorpion, and Raiden. Get to know these characters, because when it comes to fighting for profits, they're all in your corner. Mortal Kombat 1 has started an unstoppable global fire, and notoriety has fanned the flames. The world's players have embraced these characters, and they're begging us for more. Never before has a game been so perfectly poised for such massive success. What was a roaring blaze will now become a raging inferno of profit. Get ready to feel the heat of Mortal Kombat 2. The world's ultimate fighting machine.
Oh, I forgot they had they have comic books of this too that you can actually read all in its entirety. That is pretty dang cool, man. You can actually read this like on here. Those are some of the unused sprites. Some of these didn't make it in the game, apparently. Oh my god. They cut that to save money, so they were going to put people in Deadpool to turn them into skeletons, I guess. That's wild. That some of those didn't make it in the game. Mostly because they needed memory. Rancor, like from Star Wars. That was actually a name for one of them. Wow.
Here it is, Mortal Kombat 2. More characters, 3 times more images, more secret moves.
The coolest thing about Mortal Kombat 2 is I didn't know it was coming out.
I knew it was probably being worked on, and there was just rumors floating about.
I never even thought of a sequel. I was so fixated on the first game.
I had no idea. Nobody at my school had mentioned it.
It wasn't until I walked into it was an arcade called Uncle Bob's, and there it was already.
The first thing I saw was somebody slicing someone in half with Kung Lao's hat. And I remember being like, what? There's a Mortal Kombat 2, and it is crazy!
A friend came running into band class one day and said, oh, there's a Mortal Kombat 2. I saw this new character. He's a monster. He's got knives for hands.
Baraka was the first character I picked. I kept company quarters in. It was so exciting to see the advancements and the new characters.
There is a specific reason that Mortal Kombat 2 is my absolute favorite game in the entire series. And that is because of Katana's easiest in the world fatality. Walk up to the person and hit block, 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 high kick. I was immediately a master of her.
Fatality.
I still main Melina whenever I play MK2. I can do that back down, low punch to do that kind of roll thing, and then forward, low kick to do that kind of teleport from the ceiling kind of thing.
It looked bigger, it looked better, it looked badder, it was bloodier. The animation was more fluid. It looked like a comic book, and that's not something I ever thought I would ever want from a Mortal Kombat game. But like I said, I never even dreamed of a sequel. One day there it was, and it was fantastic.
The favorite characters are back, so you have kind of that step into it. The excitement was just incredible.
I remember seeing Mortal Kombat 2, the level that has Shao Kahn, the big bad guy, who had the people chained up on the pedestals in the background. You were fighting your opponent, but there was the sense of storytelling in the actual level design, and that was one of the first times I had seen that and been like, that's really cool and that's really, really clever.
Oh,
I switched to
God.
Game Boy versions, just because Game Boy was the system I played the most. And what's interesting is that Mortal Kombat 2 for the Game Boy is fantastic.
I hope you're being sarcastic.
It is an amazing fighting game. It's an amazing fighting game for a portable system with no power.
I was drinking cherry cola.
I played a ton of Mortal Kombat 2 on Super Nintendo. I would have friends over. My living room kind of became a mini arcade. All the blood and gore was there, and it was fantastic.
Fatality.
It felt pretty darn close to arcade perfect. So, haha, at that time, Nintendo came out on top.
Fatality.
I got put on as a lead on the second one, and that's where we really made the right decisions, which was nice. The idea was to just convert the code line by line and build the multi-processing system so it would work on the Super Nintendo, which of course is a different language of assembly.
Finish it.
We, I think, started, is November, somewhere like that, in 1993. We had to be done in July, and so we didn't show them anything until April. We just got our first pass of Mortal Kombat 2 for the SNES. Wow. The entire video department here at Midway is absolutely blown away at how well you have matched the feel of our arcade version on Mortal Kombat 2. You can already see that this will be the version to have, as the graphics and gameplay are awesome. So we just continued down that road, got the game done on time, and it scored really high. I had some magazines, gave it 5 stars, and it was a nice project. I did think that it was done a lot better. They could ship a game that was more like the arcade, as much as we could get it anyway. Put the rating on it, and not have to have green blood.
Johnny Cage wins.
I don't know if the Genesis guys would debate me, but I felt like it was the de facto
I showed off my copy of that too earlier when I had my camera on.
Still sort of seems to rage on up to the present day, like between the SNES version and the Genesis version. SNES version was perceived as being like the winners, the better version. And that's like, I think, largely because it's like more complete version. The reason the SNES one has got more stuff than ours, so they're like both made for the same size sort of cartridge, is that it's a lower resolution system, right? So therefore their art assets are smaller, and all the little sort of size differences add up.
Jax wins.
You end up with space for fatality.
Fatality.
The fact that the speech samples are missing, that's the thing that like kind of stands out to me. The way I got the Genesis version is like a little bit sort of convoluted. Basically, Paul had done the first one, Paul were offered the second one, and they offered it to Paul, which is like a kind of logical sort of thing to do, and Paul turned it down.
Idiocy, stupidity. At the time I was offered it, I did think that actually MK2 wouldn't ever come out, but that it would be banned. There was a bunch of people in the studio kind of talking about violence and talking about this game, and so I didn't particularly want to spend all that effort on a game that then got banned. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it?
So then they offered it to me, right? And I'd never done any Mega Drive stuff before. they used to think of this like a cooperative multitasking system. It's the first time I'd ever like kind of come across it, and like once I like kind of understood it properly, I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. Basically, I ripped it off. But every game that I wrote subsequent to that, I used that system. Everybody was like kind of happy with the version that I did, and that was no bad thing. I mean, 'cause it's like a really good game. You know? Hard to mess it up.
The 32X version, MK2. Gross.
MK2 was great and stuff, but I really didn't want us to just do the same game with prettier graphics.
There's my introduction to Mortal Kombat back in the day.
Like obviously MK1 we had the, you know, you'd fall into the pit. And that was great. It was always asking the question, well, what can we do next? MK3 was like, now we're going to knock you upwards. Now we're going to knock you downwards.
Right.
Certainly the visual qualities of the backgrounds changed over time quite significantly.
As the story took it, MK3 was based more on Earth.
.3D technology played a part.
I had been learning how to sculpt things in 3D. I created what became the subway, and I showed Ed, I'm like, hey, we could actually just, instead of like going out and videoing stuff and getting things out of books or, you know, whatever, or even just drawing them, we could actually build them in 3D with correct lighting and, you know, stuff like that. And it could even help us do the parallaxing if we wanted it to. He was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. Let's go that route. So a lot of the backgrounds, I would kind of build them in 3D, and then Tony would take that and draw on it and you know, dress them up, make them look better from there.
There's a look that's missing. It looked kind of too plastic and toyish and simple, but it was great for a starting point. We would always touch up over it. That would give it its clean look. And one of the backgrounds that we started with 3D was the Soul Chamber. I always like a star in the background. And I just coined the name Soulnado for the soul inside the mouth, and I drew that in deluxe paint, frame by frame.
I did a drawing of this in 3D just so you can make it any size and any lighting, any angle you want it. This is it's just ornamental, you know, it's just like kind of a really neat background thing.
You know, we would always in Mortal Kombat put in names, our names, you know, hidden somewhere sometimes. And mainly it was the graveyard.
I'm sure that I probably designed in 3D the tombstones, and Tony probably drew in our names. A lot of that grass, maybe even putting the background in there, like the sky and stuff. Dave Mikicic joined our team, and he knew about Photoshop. We hadn't heard about Photoshop. Photoshop was new. He took that city scene with Shao Kahn's fortress in the distance.
30.
What I gave was
About to be 34.
very stark. He added like haze and all kinds of cool atmosphere with Photoshop. We started using Photoshop a lot after that.
Once we get the digitized image, it's a lot like painting. And right now we're going through a process where we sort of filter the images through. We'll grab the image and Steve Moran will start and do some Photoshop on the guy, and then we'll hand him over to Tony, who does some touch-up. And then it gets passed over to me, and then I do some of this more detailed touch-up, and then I give it back to
If
Steve.
you're hearing me,
Kind of separates the different colors.
you're hearing
creates
my
the
acid
different colors, and then we
reflux.
give it back to Tony, and he does the final touch-up and stuff and gets it ready for the game. I'm working on
Some of the food I ate earlier is coming back up and chewing it up, swallowing it back down.
The move is she's got to turn around and she's going to pull out sort of plates and little sticks, and she spins the plates on the sticks and balances them on her hand, and she does this with her back towards you.
I remember wanting the characters to be a little bit smaller. The reason I wanted them a little smaller was so they could have more lateral motion to run.
I remember having that conversation in Ed's office, because my first reaction was, wait, we should be getting bigger. It's
Right.
like, what do you mean smaller, you know? The hardware, we can push more stuff, and we should be making it bigger. But it didn't last long. I think once the run button was in, you saw right away the value of the sprint.
Fight.
I wanted it to be more aggressive. I always felt like our walking was a bit slow for the run.
To me, it feels weird when I play MK2. I feel like I'm in molasses. It's like, come on! You know, like, I just want to move faster. So.
We really loved to see players doing combos, but some players just couldn't uppercut somebody and then jump and then juggle them and do all these kind of. So we wanted something that was a little bit more mechanical, right? Like anybody can do 1-1-2 or something like that. Right, the whole dynamic of the game was just so aggressive. And some people were intimidated by that.
Finish it.
It was somewhat controversial. There was a guy who was a tech in our, like where they would build the games. He was looking at it and he goes, I don't know why you added the run button. I don't know what that. And then, fast forward 3 weeks.
Nightwolf wins.
He actually came by and said, yeah, I don't know what I was thinking, and the thing was cool.
That's a lot of characters. Come in. I said come in. Or not. Farewell to VHS. Golly.
one day I was in the office at Playboy downtown Chicago, and the phone rang. It was Jack Hager, and he was looking for a couple cheerleaders for this game called NBA Jam. I had no idea how to cheerlead. I said I could, but I had no idea. It was great working with everybody, and then Jack invited me on to the next game, which was Revolution X. We were trying to develop Mistress Helga. He had an idea. He wanted to be like this mistress, you know, in leather, and I said, well, I got some ideas, you know, and I put a black wig on and put my Harley Davidson jacket on and black stretch pants. He added chains and put some labels on it, and he was just like, perfect. And then that is how Mistress Helga developed. That was a blast. And then I just started working with Midway, you know, game after game, and they said that they needed a new Sonya and asked me if I'd like to do it, and I said, absolutely.
I think John one time was just walking by me in the hallway. He's like, hey, Sal, you feel like being a character for, you know, Mortal Kombat 3? And I'm like, yeah, sure.
By the time we got to Mortal Kombat 3, we had a complete blue screen studio, professional lighting, professional cameras, a green room, dressing rooms for the actors.
Hey, get out here, man.
Jack Hager put that all together. It was phenomenal.
Each capture session was 2 to 3 days. John and I would do the lighting. We always consistently had what we called a money light that just was a rim light. And we'd spend a lot of time doing that because there was no going back with the lighting.
Whenever you're making a game, you would record the data and then immediately check it in the tool to make sure the lighting was right, to make sure the size was right, and whatever.
The camera takes in the signal into our beta cam recorder, and we also run a signal into our PC. This is where we do the actual grabbing of frames to be digitized. We're able to click through frame by frame, delete the frames we don't want, keep the frames that we do like.
Once you had all that set, then you could start kind of rolling into the actual moves and then forget about the technical side of it.
When we started filming a character, we'd get into work probably roughly around 10 o'clock, and usually the whole filming process takes, you know, all day.
On average day of a 14-hour shoot, we came in, got into makeup. It didn't take too long for Sonya. She doesn't wear much.
And then we have a list, a huge list of animations, kicks, punches, uppercuts, and then the special moves and stuff. Capturing every single frame of them performing these moves.
Neither Sal nor Carrie had martial arts background, right? You know, they were super athletic.
I watched a lot of martial arts. I watched a lot of, you know, Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan, and I studied like the theatrics of martial arts, but I didn't have the discipline.
Right, and my background was just gymnastics and boxing.
Sonya Blade, there she is. Yeah.
A little bit of WWF wrestling.
Oh, jeez. That's no way to begin a demonstration. Well, I think Sonya is in a little trouble here. She's being tied to a dog.
She was in wrestling?
The falls and the suplexes and that kind of stuff.
There was this tomboyish quality to her that doesn't come across when you see her.
Yeah.
And then once you work with her, you realize, holy crap, she's going to do everything we need and more.
Yeah.
Probably the hardest thing about doing any of the moves is you had to start.
So she's the MK3 Sonya.
Getting back into idle, getting back into idle. They wanted all the follow through. They wanted all the momentum, but they wanted all that power to come all the way through. Like, you know, but then you had to always get back into idle pose, and that was the main thing.
I guess he was Nightwolf.
The scrunchie in my ponytail, and we always tried to work together with costuming. You know, they would have like the basic costume, and then they would let the actors kind of bring in a little bit of detail.
Carrie Hoskins.
Helping John.
That's who played Sonya.
Creating costumes. It was like this art project. We would go to sports stores and buy like hockey gear and army surplus stores and, you know, just buy pieces and, hey, that works and put some duct tape on it. And Home Depot has this cool rubber piece that we could use for Sector's helmet. And, like, it was very do-it-yourself.
But the helmet itself was so back heavy that literally everything that I did was like, it was pulling my head back. And the mask, by doing this, the mask looked like it was looking forward. So I was always kind of doing this with everything, with all my actions.
We wanted it as compact as possible because we didn't want him to look out of proportion.
Yeah.
And so the helmet is really tight.
It must have been torture for 8 hours or whatever.
That's where your neck problem.
That's why my neck hurts so much.
I think with the Sonya costume, he was just trying to keep everything in when you're bouncing around.
I think my favorite Sale character is still Nightwolf. He just turns into that guy, and like he extends his chin, like he almost like transforms.
Sal, he had no fear. He would just go over the top. He would just insist on trying a move that we were afraid he'd get hurt from.
Throwing himself around.
Yeah, just so committed to it.
You need to look like you're taking pain. You snap your head back, really kind of throw yourself over. And when you fell, you had to look like you were getting hurt. So I would throw myself twisting around as much as I could at the time. Many times I would land, on my neck wrong, land on my back wrong.
Sale would often hurt himself, or not often, but he has a history of hurting himself, trying to get the best performance.
Didn't matter if we were working or if the camera was on or whatever. Like I just throw my hand out and put my hand on the back of his neck and go wham!
Smack my face into
and
it.
he'd fall back onto the floor, and everybody is like, "Oh my God!"
And in fact, I think her and Sal would have like contests with each other to see who can do what better. It was fun watching those two go at it.
They're still good friends to this day.
So if I was going to hit you hard,
Yeah.
See?
Yeah, so it's not the hardness, it's the location.
Reactions. All just in reaction.
She just kicked him in the balls. She was beautiful back in those days. She still kind of can get it nowadays. I think the most beautiful, I thought, was the girl that did MK3, Katana, Melina, Jade, and all them.
MK2, we were just fully embracing the secret nature of the game. Smoke and Jade were hidden characters. For MK3, the codes were basically just putting it front and center. Like it wasn't, oh, discover whatever. It was like, here are your secret dials, you know, play with your secret dials.
There's 6 little boxes, 3 of which are controlled by player 1, 3 of which are controlled by player 2. Try different combinations. There's a million possible combinations to see what can be unlocked in the game.
To get the code for Unlimited Run, each player must press low punch 4 times and block and low kick 6 times.
Marketing jumped on that and said, oh, we could do stuff with advertisements and give this magazine these codes and give magazines that code.
By using these symbols, ads will provide clues to codes on MK3 games. It's like a puzzle where one piece is missing. To solve the puzzle, players must go to your location and play the game.
I remember in Mortal Kombat 1 sneaking in Reptile.
Reptile was such a big hit that we wanted something in the player's face that was this long string of digits. It encouraged conversation, speculation, and you activated it. From that point on, the game unlocked smoke in the player's left screen.
And I remember in Mortal Kombat 3 mocking up a purple ninja, and I put the name Rain in there. Purple Ninja, Purple Rain, you know, one of my favorite albums. Just in the attract mode, it wasn't even in the game. I was kind of trolling players and putting like Ermac, you know, like Ermac was really just something for me, an audit, like certain stats that you wanted to know, how many times this character was picked, stuff like that. But everybody thought it was a character, so we made him a character.
Oh shit!
For me, the changes in Mortal Kombat 3 it was a little jarring in all honesty. I very much like how 1 to 2 went, where it's everything I wanted, and 3 was, the new mechanics were just, it was different.
I think the Mortal Kombat that threw me the most was 3. 2 felt like it took 1 to the extreme. Everything seemed like Mortal Kombat 1, but more. Mortal Kombat 3 felt like almost like a reboot of the franchise in a weird way.
Nightwolf wins.
And for maybe 15 minutes when I first played it, I was like, this isn't Mortal Kombat. I want to go back to Mortal Kombat 2. And then when I realized I could go into like this insane combo that eventually resulted in someone exploding, I was like, oh, I'm back in. This is Mortal Kombat. This is definitely Mortal Kombat.
It wasn't a surprise to see that they wanted to incorporate a little bit of those dial combo type mechanics into that game, because Killer Instinct was really popular.
I think that was the one that introduced the run button, if I recall.
The run button? Oh my god. Like, that changed so much stuff.
The run button I've never gotten used to this day. I just never find the right way to use it. So I never used the run. So I became a little bit more defensive with MK3.
And I remember the moment when someone punched me through a stage and being like, oh, wait a minute, like the game is like breaking its own fourth wall. And that stuff was cool.
Round 2, fight.
Going back to Mortal Kombat 2 after playing Mortal Kombat 3 with the run button was like going back to Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition after playing Street Fighter 2 Turbo.
I could not go back speed-wise. It was so fast, and it felt more aggressive, which is what Mortal Kombat should be.
I got my first speeding ticket racing to go to the arcade before it closed to play Mortal Kombat 3. I was just hauling ass in my 1991 Saturn, which was red, and I thought it was cool. My first car that Jazz Jackrabbit bought me. And, you know, a cop pulls me over. He's like, is everything working okay in this car? I'm like, I guess, officer. He's like, well, what about the speedometer? I guess I hit the run button with the accelerator in my car. I think Ed and John still probably owe me $50 for that ticket.
That's funny. This is where you need to hear that aquatic ambience.
Yeah, you were working in your office?
Hi Dave, what's up? Probably out of focus anyway. Pull away and go higher.
Yeah, we'd be in our 50s right now. 50s or like late 40s, maybe mid 50s.
Okay, let's roll. Okay, this is Mortal Kombat 3, and here are 4 of the fighters from Mortal Kombat 3. Our first contestant is... Sonya! Yeah. Sonya Blade, there she is. Yeah. Number 2, Kano. Right. That's Kano. Number 3 is Jax. Yes. Let's go. Yeah. And finally we have Kung Lao. All right. Let's hear it for him. They're going to give you this little number martial arts technique. Here we go. We start with Kano and Sonya. Oh, jeez. That's no way to begin a demonstration. Well, I think Sonya is in a little trouble here. She's being tied to a dog. A fate that shouldn't befall anyone. Kano is swelling with pride. He's proud of himself. Yeah. Who will save Sonya? Who will? Ooh, Kung Lao. Lost his pack. Several punches below the belt there. Ooh, it's Jax. Maybe he'll save Sonya. And Jax saved the day. All right, let's hear it for all of our Mortal Kombat characters.
Pretty good choreography.
Sonya, Kung Lao, Jax, and Kano. Well, we did have Kano. Once we had Kano. Now we have a shell of a man. Let's hear it for him one more time, the Mortal Kombat characters. Thanks, guys. I should let you know that this is the year of Mortal Kombat 3, really. There'll be a lot more than just this game, as if that's not enough. This is really the first element of the year of Mortal Kombat. It begins really today. In addition to this, there will be a making of Mortal Kombat tape that comes out in June. In July, there will be an animated feature that comes out. In August, there will be a feature-length film that comes out from the from the producers of Terminator 2. In September, there will be a live tour that kicks off. We'll go all around the globe and hit more than 200 cities. Also,
The movie they're promoting is the movie I've seen the most of.
we'll be getting a free ROM update that will include special new characters, special secret codes, special new backgrounds, and all of that will be coming in September. That will be a free ROM update. But right now, we'll get Ed Boon and John Tobias over here. Hey, Ed, John. And they're going to give us a little demonstration of Mortal Kombat. Ed will explain a little bit more about the codes that we talked about and how those feed everything back into the game.
First, I guess we'll start off with an explanation of the game when you start. On one-player map, you notice here there's 3 towers, 3 different heights, for 3 different degrees of difficulty. You know, a lot of people, some people were so good at Mortal Kombat they would be able to go through the whole game in 1 quarter. Other people couldn't get past the first time. So we basically set up 3 different levels of difficulty to allow the players who are advancing to higher level. This one also has a lot more hidden features and characters. Different about this one than the previous one, Mortal Kombat 3. Thank you, Kato.
Who's judged right?
Okay, people, what Jim just mentioned, that our code system is something, oh, actually, here's a fatality. What Jim was just talking about was a code system that we put into the game that you can access through the versus screen in a two-player game. And what these codes do is they enable the player to get to different variations of playing the game. There's all sorts of things like this buried into the game. Again, accessible through the secret codes. And as I was saying, the codes are hidden all over the place in ads, in the motion picture that New Light's putting out, and that'll be released in August, and that's a $40 million motion picture.
Mortal Kombat rock!
Before it all began, there was the void that contained the essence of everything. Within the void existed the gods who created the universe, except for one. He was not of the gods, but remained alive, and dwelled in a tiny place called the Outworld.
That song was used during Sonya versus Kano in Mortal Kombat 1995 movie. Do that up, baby.
Whose idea was Mortal Kombat?
The initial idea, I woke up.
My name is David Mikicic, and I'm a graphic artist. My name's Dan Forden, and I do sound and music. And Delphi.
My name is Ed Boone. I'm co-designer and programmer.
My name's Tony Goski, and do backgrounds and special effects.
John Vogel, background special effects.
John Tobias, and co-designer and lead artist.
Steve Perrin, and I'm a video artist.
Our motto in Williams is always that reality is boring. Nobody wants to pay for reality. We take everything beyond reality to the point where it's, the only way to do this is through our video game.
It's the perfect blending of everything. I mean, the game is fun to play. It's got good graphics, and it's got a decent backstory to it.
It's easy to come up with the ideas, anybody can come up with ideas for games and stuff, but it's to actually convert something from an idea in your head into something that is a sellable product, that's where the challenge is.
It's all an illusion. It's all an illusion.
This is sort of the very first concept of the story. This guy here eventually became Shang Tsung.
The mystique and all that whole feeling of it was really, the foundation of that was really what John Tobias kind of envisioned.
One thing Mortal Kombat does for all of us is it puts you in a mood, or it puts you in a setting where you're sort of able to create things that are surreal. Mortal Kombat 1 took place more, on an earthly environment, in an Asian type of setting. In part 2, we knew that we were going to send our characters to sort of a different world, and so the door was completely open for us to kind of interpret that in any way we wanted.
Mortal Kombat 3 has so much hidden stuff, it's just endless, just the amount of stuff that we packed in there.
Okay, here. I don't know if I should be telling you this, but I'm going to show you a move, okay? Listen. Go back, forward, back, and then down. And then push the run button. If you do that really fast, you'll be your friend forever.
The button and joystick combinations were the expected. Everybody would start looking for them immediately. And that's when I believe Ed came up with this whole sort of combination lock system.
There's 6 little boxes, 3 of which are controlled by player 1, 3 of which are controlled by player 2. Try different combinations of those 6. There's a million possible combinations to see what can be unlocked in the game.
Well, we test the game. When it comes close to the time that the game is done, they have us come in, we just play it. We play them all day long and look for bugs. The difference between
That's the kind of job I'd love to have.
we added a run button, and when you use the run button, it makes you aggressive towards your opponent, even if you keep on using the run over and over and over to attack your opponent.
What we're going to show you now is a few simple combos that'll get you started playing. A lot of characters have a simple combo with kicks, which usually involves three presses of the same button. Like Cyrax has, you press high kick twice and then back and high kick for the final hit. He does 3 hits and knocks the opponent away.
My favorite move would probably be Kano's chokehold. It would be down towards low punch.
One of my favorite codes is disable blocking. Each player presses block twice when the code things come up on screen. And it turns off blocking, so you can't be a defensive player. You have to play offensively or you're going to lose because there's no way you can block anybody's hits.
I'm the MK3 kid. I did the Nightmare black and white spot, the whole eye thing. And then I also did the color stomach spot, also known as Blackbird.
In the TV commercials for the home game, there are codes hidden in, background objects or a wall or a fence or something like that.
I'll be walking down the halls of my school, and I'll hear from one end to the other, Mortal Kombat! We started at 8 in the morning, and they were actually...
Kind of looks like Val Kilmer, actor.
2.5 hours to get a lighting set, they were moving pieces around, checking different lighting, which kind of strobes to put where. I couldn't move, because if I moved, the angles on my face would mess up the light.
Here we go, quiet please, roll tape.
And he talked me through different emotional states, and okay, you're being chased, you're being scared, now you're turning around and you're fighting this creature, so look angry while you're moving your eyes and you twitch and wake up! And you spaz, and I have to open my eyes.
And then there's John Vogel. He did background for part 1. He did some stop motion animation stuff for part 2, and he did some backgrounds in part 3.
He worked on backgrounds along with Tony Goski.
Tony's probably one of the most respected artists in the department. He's probably one of the best artists in any industry, and he conceptualizes backgrounds as well.
The throne chamber, and this is where the Sonatas.
He never sees the Sonatas. Steve Moran worked on Mortal Kombat 3. That was the first one he worked on, and he did the character graphics for Justified.
I like doing stuff that's actually kind of shocking. Not so much violent or anything, but just stuff that gets a reaction.
Dave Mikuchich, he's like our resident 3D expert. He kind of got everybody up to speed on doing 3D stuff, and he can crank out anything with a 3D program faster than anybody in the world.
I was in Ed Boon's office the other day. I picked it up in this trash can. It says, for smoke, the ultimate combat code is 10902-22234. Then back, low punch.
Yummy.
It's important for Mortal Kombat fans.
Dan shows you cool stuff every couple of days. He just comes in and you go, great, this is awesome.
And he's a lot like Ed, where I just have this confidence that he's going to go away and come back with something spectacular.
Let's see, Johnny K. did not crunch, I believe. Didn't someone make a candy bar, Johnny K. Not crunch bar?
John Bias and some of the other guys from the Mortal Kombat team happened to just come up to me and, kind of poke on my arm and say, do you want to do a character? I said, oh no, can I do a character? Yeah, I'd love to have it.
People don't realize that there is a lot of work done in the actual characters of the costumes. I've never asked John for a character that looks like something. He shows me something and says, what do you think of that? And I go, that's great.
See, the inspiration, I think, for a lot of the characters come from all over the place. I mean, they come from movies I've seen when I was a kid. They come from books I've read. I mean, everybody gets inspiration from somewhere.
I started out with NBA Jam as a cheerleader, and then I went to Revolution X as Mr. Helga, and they asked me to do Mortal Kombat, and we can do Sonya. I said, sure, I'd love to do it.
When I was a character here, that sort of like funded me going to school, because I wanted to be an artist like all my life. As with all Mortal Kombat games, the characters are definitely the most interesting of any fighting game.
Hey, get out of here, man.
Between Sector and Raiden, who would win? Sector Raiden would win. Sector's got it in the bag. Raiden would win. Don't even try to Sector.
Well, let's see, a character would probably first start with me sitting down, staring at a blank wall for a little while, and then after a while, something will hit me and I'll just start sketching around different ideas.
Months and months not having names for these characters, and then we'd have these powwow sessions where everybody would kind of throw out names.
No, that's the AC. I stepped away from it. I was kind of too close to it.
95% of them, somebody would say a name, there'd be one of us, of the 5 or 6 of us, who would just have a heart attack because they hated it so much, and we're like, okay, I guess that's a no.
That's good.
To get the code for Unlimited Run, each player must press low punch 4 times and block and low kick 6 times.
when we started filming a character, we'd get into work probably roughly around 10 o'clock, and usually the whole filming process takes, all day.
Oh, another day of a 14-hour shoot. Let's see. Well, we came in and got into makeup. It didn't take too long for Sonya. She doesn't wear much.
And then we have a list, a huge list of animations, kicks, punches, uppercuts, and the special moves and stuff.
She is fine.
And we basically go down that list, capturing every single frame of them performing these moves.
Hi, Reagan. Hi, Spectrum.
You have to do each move 8 ways. If you see a joystick goes 8 different ways. So if I was to do a front kick, I'd have to do it frontwards, backwards, sideways, and diagonal 4 different ways.
This is why we have tape on the floor, just to keep them facing the right direction.
Here's the camera that takes in the signal. We run signals into our beta cam recorder, and we also run a signal here into our PC. And then on our PC here, we have one of our boards connected to that. And also, this is where we do the actual grabbing of frames to be digitized. You can kind of see our talent out there, and I'll really quickly grab some images of them. That's good, Tony. We're able to click through frame by frame, delete the frames we don't want, keep the frames that we do like. As a matter of fact, you know what we should do? We should shovel. We should have done that from day one. Somebody just push them real hard.
We should just. All right, now the next animation, just stand there.
One of my favorite fatalities in the game is with the character Kung Lao. And to execute, you stand right next to your opponent and press forward, forward, back, down, high punch. And what he does is he throws his hat at the opponent and flies back and forth across the screen, cutting your opponent up into small pieces. The day that we spent filming is probably, like 2% of the entire amount of time that has to be devoted to doing it.
Once we get the digitized image, it's a lot like animating. And right now we're going through a process where we sort of filter the images through. We'll grab the image and Steve Buran will start and do some Photoshop on the guy, and then we'll hand him over to Tony, who does some touch-up. And then it gets passed over to me, and then I do some of this more detailed touch-up, and then I give it back to Steve, and he kind of separates the different colors and creates the different palettes, and then we give it back to Tony, and he does the final touch-up and stuff and gets it ready for the game.
I did a drawing of this and everything. In 3D, you can make it any size and any lighting, any angle you wanted. Dave Michich did this, the 3D version. It's just ornamental, it's just like kind of a really neat background thing. But I was telling Ed about the story, like the Stone Cave.
Working on a friendship move for Shigoro character, that's her Tony now. She didn't have a real name yet. She's going to turn around and she's going to pull out sort of plates and little sticks, and she spins the plates and the sticks and balances them on her hand, and she does this with her back towards you.
Shiva runes. Friendship.
Friendship? Remember that. This is Shang Tsung morphing into the robot ninja, who we call Ketchup right now, because right now there's a red guy and there's a yellow guy, so we call him Ketchup and Mustard. But they will have real names later on. There's new combos you can do on the ground, like you chain a series of buttons together, a series of moves to get like 7 hits or whatever on the guy, and the first one hits, and the successive hits after that are unblockable. Most combos will start with either a high punch or a high kick. You would press like high kick, and that'll give you the first 2 hits, and then you can move to another button, which is usually the same type of button, like high kick, low kick, which will do a 3-hit combo, or some of them can be chained like high punch, and those are usually followed with like a high kick or a low kick.
And then we can give them numbers, so it'll be poop on you too, you know?
Right.
Whatever can possibly happen in the game, you know, I have to program the game to be able to do that. As you play the game when you first start, it's going to be very dumb. It'll just stand there, it'll let you beat it up, and then as you fight the second guy, it'll get a little smarter, and the third guy a little smarter. And it has to be progressive. It has to be something that's, you know, a smooth increase. Because if you play the game the first time and the computer kills you, you're not going to want to play it again.
There's comfort in knowing that the other person is doing their job beyond your expectations. The good thing about working with that is you can hand them some artwork, and you can, you know, you'll see it in the game pretty quickly.
Time! You tell me time!
Striker who has a combo that'll pop you in the air, you can pretty much chase him across the screen and juggle him all the way across the screen, hitting him.
I like the handstand chokehold. I think that's my favorite.
My mom was pretty happy when I got my job because she realized I wasn't wasting my time hanging out in arcades when I was younger. But she said that, you know, she was real proud that I was making a living exploiting my talent. Another way to finish your opponent is it's almost kind of humiliating, and it's also funny, is you can turn them into a baby.
Flawless victory. Babality.
All right, guys, I got some for you. Next time you're in a jam, I want you to try this on your opponent. 2 high kicks, 2 high punches, 1 low punch, and then back and high punch together. That's my 6-hit combo. It's guaranteed to rock the outlet.
This is just fantasy.
Players really seem to freak out when we put it on a test when they would see something incredible happen with big talent. There's all the blood and whatever. It shocked them a lot.
I've been by like arcades and stuff, and I have been recognized. It's kind of funny. Everybody wants to play me, and they're like, "No, you don't want to play me." Kids can write me if they send like $3. I send them an autographed picture, and I actually do write them back. I try to write everybody back.
Sounds like this is like the longest video of the whole documentary so far. Like, ooh, we're gonna be cutting it close.
This is how you do Sonya's automality. Hold low punch and get right next to the person and do back towards, down towards. Release low punch and she'll turn into an eagle and lift your opponent in the air and tear him apart with his remains falling from the sky.
But I really do it on live tour too, which is fun.
This is the sound area. This is where they make all the sounds for the games.
You try to imagine the action of playing the game and what the music's gonna do to like get you revved up. Ed gives me a videotape of just sort of scrolling through the backgrounds. I just look at that and try to get some idea about the kind of mood, the kind of setting that we're trying to represent. Now this one in particular, I was thinking, well, this reminds me of Mortal Kombat 2. It's got that very dark, outworld feel that looks like Goro with this green thing in his mouth.
Yes, I do know martial arts. Kung Fu.
I try to get a rhythm going, and then fill it out with harmony.
Toasty! Toasty! It evolved from your toes.
That's Ed Boon, pitched down a few semitones.
So, I mean, in the movie, he's Scorpion. You'll see in the credits, I've been on voice of Scorpion.
Feel the power of Shao Kahn.
You know, Shao Kahn was played by Steve Ritchie, who is the king, as we all know him. Pinball designer.
Flawless victory.
Basically, everyone has a set of speech calls for attacking, you know, punching, getting hit, you know, getting hit in the face, getting hit in the body.
Animality or animality, what do you want?
Animality.
Animality.
One of the hardest combos in the game has to be Jax's, because it involves holding down on the joystick while pushing other buttons. So what you do is you hit high kick, down and high punch, and hold down, and continue to hold down and hit high punch again, and then hold back and hit block. And then as you're holding back, hit low punch, and then hold back and hit high punch again for a 7-hit combo, which is super devastating.
We do the arcade version, which is the original one, and then after that's one's been out for about a year or so, and then they start converting it into the home platforms, that's where you get the Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, the PlayStation, and all that.
Well, the Chicago guys send us the assembly source code, and then we go line by line and convert it into C.
Yeah, so Dropship does all the original artwork that they did, all the finished artwork that went into the game and their file formats, and then it's up to us to rip it out and figure out what file format would be best to use on our PlayStation and convert it down and make it work.
We have one piece of hardware that has a particular size of RAM and a CD-ROM, which is in the machine. And so what you have to do is you have to decide what chunks of sound data have to come off of the CD-ROM into the RAM of the machine and at one point in the game.
The quality on the PSX is better. It's stereo 44:1 sound, just like you'll buy in any music store, CD shop. Right. It's the same stuff.
One of the most amazing things I think we found in the game that we couldn't believe was the fact that Shiva was a stop-motion puppet. When we were originally just looking at the artwork, we were just saying there's no way. I mean, we see like muscles rippling. It looks like her face is changing. It just looked too real.
One of the codes, if you on the briefcase screen, if you push the third symbol down one, you'll get a new exclusive PSX code. We're going to tell you what it is. We'll just let you find out.
What's this dude doing? You're the best man. Oh, man. You're the best man. Raise your rules, you know,
They're having too much fun.
Game over.
Yeah. Man. I would love to be on the fly on the window seeing some of the making, like when it was actually going on. Because I bet you it was pretty cool to see, pretty funny to watch. That's all of this particular video. Is it all of the entire documentary? No. I'm still not done, but I'll have to pick back up on it later because we're getting too close to time for Raw. if I have enough time, I might try to continue this afterwards. After all, hopefully I can finish it up. After all. Oh my God, I remember that.
Everyone's dead to me. They can't kill me.
Doom?
They're not gonna win.
They're showing off Doom on Mortal Kombat. Wow. For the Super NES. That's funny that they use that for the last, that's wild. No, I didn't either. I'm just getting all the picture stuff out the way. Okay. I'm going to end it right here. I might try to pick up on it a little later on after Monday Night Raw goes off the air. It's about to start, so that's why I'm having to end it right here. But I'll try to pick up on this if it ain't too late. But if not, I'll try some more tomorrow after work. But anyways, thanks everybody for watching, and as always, I'll see y'all in the next video. Deuces.